the light. Hard light says one thing to you, soft light says another thing to you, warm light says another thing to you. So you use these colors and combinations of these colors to tell the story, right? So let's talk about just lighting on a face for starts, right? Can I have faces number 1, please? So basically what you're going to have here once it comes up is you're going to have 9 images of a face. And the light coming from different angles of the face will make you feel different things. It's the same face, but you're going to feel different things based upon where you put that light. If I put a light below you, it looks a certain way. If I put a light above you, it looks a certain way. If I put it to the side or just rotating, it tells different stories. If I add warm, there we go. All right, so as you see, this light up here is the top light, right? How do you know it's the top light? Shadows. There you go. Shadow tells you the direction of where this light is coming from, right? This light is on the top, and it goes further and further, the first row. It goes further and further behind the subject, right? Making you think about different things as it goes behind. This light is also, this is coming from below, right? You can also tell the shadows on the forehead, right? And then it goes down and goes down, and again, now this one has a nice soft fill coming in, right? So again, the same person, but yet you get different looks, right? The reason why this part of the course is important is because I'm hearing that a lot of DPs run into the issue of so-called knowing what they're doing, right? You are the DP, you are on the creative aspect, meaning you are above the line. You are in with the talent, you are in with the producers, you are in with the production design, the script, the director. It doesn't mean that you abandon the technical aspect, because you do not have the luxury of adjustment for that. You have the luxury of adjustment for, you know, making something artistic, but if you forget the technical aspect of what you're doing, you will cost production money and they will fire you. We understand? Okay. So, hello? I'm trying to show you something. Faces number 2, please. All right, I could just freestyle. Let's forget this. Let me go into. Oh, it is. Faces number 2. Same person. Light starting off fairly flat, but on the top, as you see, it goes from flat to one side, right? In the second one, you see it going from flat to top. In the bottom, you see from flat to bottom lit, right? Automatically, you can tell a story with the positioning of this light. You can tell whether this guy is about to do something demonic. You can tell whether this guy is dealing with 2 parts, like is he like dealing with some sort of schizophrenic situation where he's mad there, but then you can't see the other side at all. This side means he doesn't want to be seen at all, right? So all of these things tell stories, and these are the things you need to pay attention to when you're trying to light a subject or tell a story, right? We understand our role in this business, the department function and composition. Hello? The department function and composition. We as an electric function as it pertains to cinematography, well for me, Lewis Latimer, we have lights, right? Y'all know who Lewis Latimer was, right? Yeah. Lewis Latimer was the black man that gave Thomas Edison tungsten. So without the black man giving Thomas Edison tungsten, we would not have lights, right? So, more props to us, right? Yeah. All right, so, and you know the saying, lights, camera, diaspora. I mean, lights, camera, action. And soon it's going to be the most important department to you of all departments. What is our occupation? First is to ensure electrical safety for the crew and the cast of any and every set location, and in doing so, determine that our power source is stable and adequate. Someone recently asked me, as a gaffer, do you have to master electricity? Of course you do. If you're the person providing the lights, of course you have to understand the science of what the source of that light is, and that's electricity, right? So we have to be masters of electricity, and we don't give electricity to the rest of the set until it is stable and safe. All right, so that's my first job as an electric, as a lighter, is to know where the source is coming from. Let's talk about lights now. We the nanites, electricians, right? I'm starting from the basics, guys. I know there are producers here, I know there are DPs here, I know there are gaffers here, I know there are key grips here, but I need to start off from the basics, because in having that bottom basis and having that foundation, you can grow. If you don't have a good crew, you're not a good gaffer. If you don't have a good gaffer, you're not a good DP, and it's just that simple, right? As an industry, as individuals, we should never kiss up and shit down, excuse my language. My point is, don't be looking at the bosses talking about, oh, what can I do for you, what can I do for you? No, I talk to my crew that way, the guys that make me look good. The guys I work for, they need to be happy that they have me, right? Because I'm thorough in what I do. And the reason for having any job is that you make someone more money than they pay you. You understand that, right? So if they pay me $10, that means the formula is that I'm already making them $50, right? Now with my mind, not with kissing butt or not with breaking my back, I find efficiency in able to give them $20 worth of work, which means I'm now making them $100. So I'm not going to be kissing their butt about anything, right? Because I'm going to rely on my skills, right? Occupation is boss. Safety is boss, right? And he who saves the most money is boss. Don't forget that part, all right? I don't look to an individual as the boss. I was hired to do an occupation. I do the occupation efficiently, and I don't worry about my stability of being hired. So my concern is, are the people who work for me, are they good, right? And this should be your concern. And I'm gonna tell anybody who is above the line, if you have people working for you, the better you treat them, the more they'll do for you. If you don't treat them right, you will lose money that you will never see. Trust me on that. I have done it myself, to be honest with you, all right? So take care of the people that work for you. So we the nanites are the DP's thoughts, symbiotically using our collective understanding of what they need to paint the picture with light. Control of light via intensity, temperature, adjustment, and balance. Focus or spread, or a combination of the two. To project on the screen the theatrical exaggeration needed to translate the definition of the topic. What I mean by theatrical exaggeration is, the issue that most people have is that they don't understand that you are making up for an entire dimension when you put stuff on screen, right? You have to exaggerate everything you do. It's like, let's take the basic person being watched, like a newscaster. You're a newscaster. If you turn the volume up, you'll find him moving his head as he explains the story to you and making all these innuendos. Now, if a friend of yours was talking to you and doing all that, you'd say something is wrong with them because it's not natural. But on the two-dimensional platform that we have, they have to do this to give you the feel. Same thing with lights, right? So a common formula for exaggerated light is, let's say I'm using a desk and I have a 65-watt lamp on the desk, right? That's my key. And that's my practical light. The motivated light that's coming to replicate it could be a 650-watt Fresnel. That's 10 times the amount of light. Not saying that I'm going to use the whole 10 times the amount of light, but I have now the area in which to shape, to cut, to color, to dim, or anything else that I want to do in that range of from 10 to 1, right? And you also have to always remember that it's not so much what you are seeing on the screen. Think about who you are serving. You are serving an audience, and every audience member is an expert. What do I mean by that? Every audience member knows exactly what something looks like naturally. So as you try and show them what it is naturally on screen, you have to make sure you add the exaggerations needed so that they can understand that, okay? That's theatrical exaggeration. Same thing for actors, like some actors will just try and sit still and you say to yourself, they're a terrible actor. Other actors will play into the camera. They'll say something and move a certain way. They'll make sure that the cut starts with them looking directly at whoever the other actress or actor is, or maybe in the camera, depending on what the story is asking for. And so therefore, again, exaggeration. The electric crew composition is as follows. The gaffer, chief lighting technician, is the head of the department. His duties are to translate the DP's needs with equipment placed on set that lights the subjects and set without hindering or obstructing the action. He or she scouts the location with the DP and other heads of departments to create and agree upon a light plot that animates the director and DP's vision. All right, this part right here, I need all producers to understand. Scouting a location is very, very important. I understand a lot of people like to wait to the last minute to bring the crew in. Let me tell you that the way to save money is to bring your experts in early, all right? If you own a restaurant, you're not making the French fries. You don't make them the way that your customers like them. You hired a master chef to come in. He did that. Even if he's not there, the recipe is in, and your cooks do that work. If you think that by bringing them in at the last minute saves you money because they're not on the payroll, you're sadly mistaken. I'll give you an example. On the Ray Donovan finale, everybody familiar with Ray Donovan? Yeah. Okay, on the finale, I came in early to examine the location and examine the stage, right? So we were shooting, one of the stages was his loft. Right, now y'all know what a loft is, right? Big windows, big ceilings, exposed perms or exposed beams, right? Just that whole industrial kind of look. So as I walked in and I got the plans for the set, I noticed that this stage did not have adequate power, right? You got big windows, I'm gonna have to put some big guns through those big windows, right? So I can replicate natural light coming in. Not just one source, but many sources, because the sky is the many sources of outside. So that's why it looks so beautiful, because the sky is basically the diffusion and a bounce board for the sun. And everything that the light touches bounces around, and that's why it looks that way. So I immediately get inside the place and I say, wow, this place does not have power. I'm gonna need some serious power in here. I'm gonna have to rent a generator that's gonna come on a shipping container for the most part, in the trailer, and then I'll run power from there. So I noticed that they had all the windows on the other side of where my point of entry for power would be, right? And I said, okay. So I went upstairs and asked the producer, I said, since most things haven't been started yet outside of the pad, everybody understands what a pad is, right? A pad? Right, well, for those that don't, a pad is a couple of layers of wood, maybe some hermosode in between, that keeps the floor smooth enough that the dolly can roll without any type of hiccups, right? So there's 3 ways that you're gonna run a dolly, right? Either on a track, either on a nice floor or on a dance floor, which is just that, like the resin on top of wood, right? So that you have these great movements with your dolly that are uninterrupted. So since that was the only thing that was down, there was no walls up yet or anything, I said, well, is it possible that the art department, which is way above the line, I'm below the line, right? This goes to who's the boss, right? I said, is it possible that we 180 the set? And they said, why? Why would you do that? I said, because my power comes in through this door. You have the lights over there, which means I gotta go up and over the set to power those lights. So what's that gonna do is that's gonna cost you thousands of more feet of cable, hundreds of more manpower hours, and also disrupt whatever schedule you have for the other departments to make this work, right? So the guy said, okay, I'll check. He calls me back before I get home and says, we're definitely turning 180. I probably saved him between $75,000 and $100,000 just by one examination. All right, so it's very important that you get your experts in early. I'm not saying the whole crew, but definitely bring in the lead man, the gaffer, his best boy, right? Because the best boy is a man of detail. So whatever he misses, his best boy is gonna catch, right? But it's very important that you guys bring your experts in as early as possible. Just now, when I was here waiting and they went up to do the technical analysis or technical work up top, I went upstairs to the booth just so I could see the venue. This is what we have to do as filmmakers, always be prepared, always rig early. I understand also that you guys don't like to rig, or you like to rig, shoot, and then wrap on the same day. Well, that is the biggest disservice you could ever do to yourself. I started out that way, you know, I used to jump off a truck, run 300 feet of cable, hang a couple of lights, and then we shoot, right? Now, we send a crew in the day before.
They hang the big guns, you come in, you rehearse, you shoot. And when you have a production that's going at $1,000 to $1,500 a minute, I don't cost that much, but I will cost that much if I am doing that on the day that we're shooting. So it makes sense to get locations a day before, locations a day after, all right? Rigging, guys, prep. They think it's spending money, it's saving money, all right? Let's see, okay. So your best boy or your best girl is your foreman. Their responsibilities include time cards, equipment care, replacement and management, replacement or maintenance of equipment, crew delegation, and departmental interaction for the purposes of logistics. Logistics are very, very important, guys. For those who end up having issues shooting daytime exteriors, right? You don't want to shoot with the sun shooting right in your face, and you definitely don't want to shoot with the sun right above your head, right? That's a problem, isn't it? You want that sun behind you. So I would implore you guys to pick up an app called, I don't want to advertise for them, but I got to give this to you. Sunseeker. Sunseeker 3D, right? It is the thing you put your phone up and it will show you the path of the sun hour by hour. So you can decide logistically, okay, I'm going to shoot this part in the morning, and when the sun goes right overhead, we'll go back into the interior, and then when we come back, we'll shoot the other side as the sun goes the other way, right? Sometimes you don't have the luxury of being able to turn your actors the way you want them. Production design might determine that they like the background, they like this particular building, they like this particular set. You can't turn it around because you're having issues with lighting. So again, with prep, it's important to know exactly where your sun is going to be at, right? Because if we're talking about lights, that's the greatest light that you're going to ever have. Please don't fight it. Don't fight the sun, all right? You should work with it, control it, listen to it. Do not think you're going to overpower it. And try not to be adding lights when you got so much sun available. I see people do that all the time. People have flashes when they're taking pictures. I was in Gabon one time, and the wedding photographer had flash, and everybody had white dots all over their face. I said, "You're my man. You can't beat that. Turn that flash to the side and take your picture." And he had beautiful pictures afterwards. Sunseeker, guys, very important for anybody doing lighting. And for producers and DPs, you know, it just makes things much easier. You know what you can and can't do, all right? You're not fighting things. All right, so let's go some more. What else we got? What's the DP's job? We know what the DP's job is. We did that already, right? Okay, all those cinematographers, electric, as high and mighty as we are, at least that's what I tell myself, are a service. And I've demanded from my service that that service be supreme and in turn highly sought after. The building of a fiscal reason to embark in this arena, right? Nobody's gonna be better than me. That's just the bottom line. If I come in second, it's because I decided to learn first, all right? When I hit a set, I'm dead serious. And there's nothing that's greater than me because I know y'all think I come from the States, but I also come from Africa, right? I reside in the States. You know, I was born in the States, but I was also raised knowing my roots, knowing my history, knowing how great we are as a people. Look at y'all as athletes who have been allowed to play tennis and golf. What happened there, guys? We dominated, right? Yeah. All right, so that's what's going to happen with y'all. And that's what's happening already. I've seen the work that Nigeria's been doing, and it's beautiful. It's definitely on the world standard. Some of it. Yeah, no, seriously, give yourself a bigger round of applause than that, because I'm not really trying to teach you what you know already, right? I'm trying to give you the parts of it that you need to make it work better, right? Your job is not to light, your job is to get your job done, all right? That's what you have to think about. How do you get around other departments to make your job happen? All right, so what is cinematic lighting? Cinematic lighting is self-explanatory. It says the lights let the audience experience and feel a scene or a set, right? So a lot of very well-known and well-renowned gaffers or DPs were having issues lighting black people because they're accustomed to lighting white people. The thing about lighting white people, for the most part, is you usually use, like, you know, just your color correct daylight, your color correct tungsten, and you kind of play with that temperature to differentiate warm or cool. Okay. Not with black people, guys. We can use every color in the spectrum because every color is inside your face. So if I want to show some passion, I throw some red over here, right? I throw some orange over here, and then maybe right here I throw a little 2700 to blend those two emotions, right? Also think about contrasting colors, oranges and purples and greens and reds. These are the things that make the, I mean, look at our club scenes. Don't they look dope? Because we're using the hues that are in our face, right? If I put red on that white wall, it's just red. If I put red on my skin, or not my skin, but your skin, it's burgundy, right? And that says something else to you, right? Each color says another emotion. All right, and lighting also tells an audience where to look. Okay, use the light's position in the way that the second instrument. Okay, got that already. Okay. So lighting tells the audience where to look. Depending on what a script dictates, the proper spill of a motivated practical will give the perception of what's outside the border of a shot. I.e., during a daytime interior, a light at 5600 in a doorway pushing into a hallway in the background of a shot gives the illusion of depth and texture, right? So for instance, that could not be outside. That could be a hallway. I'll just push a light right through that, just like that, and you'll think that it's outside. And that works especially when you have a long hallway with, you know, room on each side, right? You have rooms on each side, right? How do you give the perception that you're shooting in the daytime? Well, you've already started with the master shot that came in from outside. They got big windows, so you're pushing some nice daylight through that. So as you look down the hallway, how do you give the perception that each one of these rooms have windows? Well, you take a little light, usually the same perspective as the door itself, a rectangle. You put it about 4 or 5 feet back, you put some diffusion on it, and you shoot it through the hallway. If that person has to walk through it, they keep getting splashed with daylight. The audience thinks that there's a room with a window. So it's, again, the illusion of exaggeration to paint these pictures of illusion of depth and texture. Lighting reflects the psychology of characters, juicy stuff. This is, of course, for the most part, what we've been talking about this whole time. I want to first ask you, what emotions do you receive by color or temp? Because from there we can translate without partisan to the assignment. So what color, what emotion do you get from blue? Anybody?
Calm. Calm.
Calm. What emotion do you get from red? Danger or passion, right? So blue could be calm, it could be true, it could be stable, where red is definitely going to say something's about to happen, right? So let's think about the combinations of those colors on a face, on a set, that will automatically put people in a certain mood when they get to you, or when they start seeing it. All right. Who determines the lighting setup for a scene? In my experience, it's the director of photography. Just as it's the director's job to bring the script to the life, the DP's job is to make sure the audience sees the director's vision. The director shares visual inspirations and ideas for cinematic lighting. This part of the process is at the top of our department's necessity and value to the cinematic goal. Normally, a DP will receive the script after or at the same time as the director. When they meet to discuss the assignment, he already has in mind the lighting plot and the color application treatment, so after absorbing the director's aspirations and intentions, they adjust or agree, and then do a camera test right before shooting to make sure their formula works, right? The director of photography or cinematographer creates the lighting plan with input from the director. The gaffer designs and executes the cinematographer's lighting plan and oversees the crew that brings the lighting plan to life. The best gaffers are prepared for anything. In other words, after all discussion between the director and the DP and gaffer, the synergy of the scene happening can change the director and DP's vision on the day. Now, I know it's a nightmare for producers, like I just spent all this time, I just got all the stuff you asked for, and now you're changing it. In most cases, it's a sign of unprofessionalism, unpreparedness, and incompetence. But in some very rare cases, it's a sign of pure genius. Sometimes, what they take down and put back up, you go, okay, I get it. That is beautiful, right? And sometimes that just happens to the creative process. But not to be confused with always changing because you didn't do your technical analysis, right? As a DP, You know, somebody asked me earlier, what do you do when a DP doesn't know what he's doing or doesn't know what lights to ask for? I don't believe a DP needs to know about the lights to ask for. I think a DP needs to understand lenses and needs to understand how to move the camera and get the angles to tell the story. It's the gaffer's job to have the instruments that are used so that the DP can get what he needs across to the audience based on the agreement between him and the director. Right? So a good gaffer is going to have your lights with every gel that's available or every diffusion that's available so that, you know, that scene gets done the right way. Agree?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know you have there's a lot of people, y'all have a lot of mixed jobs here. Like everybody does a little bit of everything. It's not good, guys. That's not good. Because what happens when you do that is you become a jack of all trades and a master of none. Right? So it's okay to start that way so that everybody respects everyone's job and that anytime that you need to get your job done, right, which is how to get your job done, you can understand the process of another department and work with them. Like as lighting, as gaffers, as DPs, we're the only department that everybody depends on, right? Without lights, what is it? Radio. Without lights, is radio, y'all. So, and without electricity, there's no sound going on. There's no machines being worked. So we are responsible. You know, we're one of the most important parts of the cinematic process as being those who are in charge of the power that's being used. So it's very important to make sure you have your technical aspect down pat as a DP, right? If I go to a job and the guy says, you know, the DP says, put this light over here, and I put that light over there, and then he says, put it over there, and I'm saying, what part of this didn't you think about before we got here? All right, so DPs, do your homework on your subjects, on your sets, on your script, so that when we get there, you already know where you want it lit from, right? And then I can help you complement it as we look at the screen. We can decide what kind of diffusion, right? Diffusions are very important, guys. Think of them as the seasoning on your food, right? You like chicken, that's that light. But what's it seasoned? How is it seasoned? Is it baked chicken? Is it stewed chicken? Is it curry chicken? This is what diffusions will do. And they're like fine liquor as well, right? The better the liquor, right? The better it dissipates on your tongue, correct? There's no bite. So this is what diffusion is used, to get rid of the bite, right? Because very rarely is natural light harsh, right? Natural light is not harsh, it's very soft, right? That door keeps opening up and keeps lighting this whole place up, and the sun is not directly here. That's 1,000 different bounces, right? Everybody know what a bounce is, right? Okay. What's the purpose of a bounce?
To fill.
One person.
To fill light.
To do what?
To fill.
To fill the light. The purpose of a bounce is to soften a light. Okay. Every time light hits something, it gets softer. All right? So the main purpose of a bounce is to soften a light. The second purpose of a bounce is to get the light out of your shot so you don't contaminate the action. All right? So you say, for instance, they want to go like this. You can't have lights over there. Right? In the normal over-the-shoulder, back and forth, or 50-50, you put the lights behind the camera, everybody's happy. But what happens when the DP says, I want to come in here and I want to do this? What do you do, guys? I'll tell you what you do. Look at it like the planet, right? In the middle of the planet is the equator, correct? So if your camera is the core of the Earth, you're spinning 360 at the equator. Your lights would be at the tropics of, I forget which one is where, but there's Capricorn and there's Cancer. I think it's Cancer. I'm a Cancer. It's Cancer and Capricorn, right? So that's where you put your 360 of lights, outside of the 360 of the shot, all right? And if you have to raise that shot up into the next plane of 360 for 90 degrees, then you lay from the bottom. Again, keeping your shot clean. All right, so what else we got here? Hard lighting. Hard lighting, right? When you want some character, more character out of the contours of a subject, instead of fill light softening shadows, the fill will be mostly just the residual light created by the key. Also to mimic a real-life lighting effect, as in the HMI or PAR, streaking through a window through atmosphere. Atmosphere is just like a little smoke or something like that, so you can see those rays, right? You're not used to see rays when you wake up, the dust in the air, right? And you don't want dust like that on the set, so you get you a fog machine. So you use, let me see where we at here. Okay. All right, you know, I'm ready to start answering some questions and going into some stuff y'all want to talk about. Does anybody have any questions? Anybody have any questions? Anybody having a problem right now? I know y'all got problems. Let me stop. Come on now, don't be shy. Who got a problem? Tell me what the problem is. Let's talk about it. Nobody. Okay. All right, we'll keep going then. We'll keep going. Let me have faces with notes. All right, so in this situation, the person hasn't moved. It's the camera that moves. And again, look at the different descriptions of what's being used, right? Diffuse front light, hard front light. What's your difference? Your difference is that the shadows are more pronounced in the hard front light as opposed to the soft or the diffuse front light, right? And then just by moving the camera around, you can create different effects. Can we turn these lights off right here? A little bit better now? Okay.
But that door is the problem.
And if we can get somebody to stop around that door, it would be good too. Yeah, I don't know no theater that works with daylight just walking in the door like that. I mean, actually, kind of started that way, guys. The old theaters used to have slots in the ceilings, and the gaffer used to have a stick that opened them up to let sunlight in before lights were around. Just a little history note. So yeah, again, look at, this person has the same expression on. Nothing has changed about the expression of this individual. It's just the movement of light and also the placement of the camera. All right. What are you getting from these different pictures? What does it say to you? You know, some of it says, like, she looks scared here, doesn't she?
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because that's light coming from up under, right? Where's the light coming from above? A little less scared, a little bit more worried, right? So where you place the light tells a story of what's going on. Let me see Faces 2. Oh, I saw Faces 2 already. Let me see. Yeah, I like that guy. That guy says a lot. I'm sorry, I couldn't really see this stuff with those lights on. But again, you can shrink it back in. These shadows, like if you want something or don't want something, you have to decide where your light's coming from. You wouldn't like that, would you? As a DP, right? You would say, unless you're trying to tell that kind of story, so you know you have to start moving your light to reduce that shadow. Or if you love that light, then you know you have to start filling it in a certain way to diffuse that shadow, right? So diffusion and angle of lights is very, very important. All right. So also, let me look at, I'm just going to keep going because nobody seems to be asking me any questions. I know somebody got problems in here. They're going to be mad when they don't ask them. Don't ask me outside. Ask me right now. Anybody? All right. Okay. All right. Natural lighting and available light. All right. So you know your 3-point light starts, right? All right. 3-point lighting. Key, fill, and edge. That's bad, man. Don't get caught up in that, okay? Do what feels natural to you. Because I could use a key light, or I could use an edge light strong enough to do all 3, right? So let's say, for instance, I have a subject that I'm lighting from behind, right? Okay. And I have 90 degrees of wall, this way and that way. I shoot that edge light behind the head this way. It bounces this wall here. That residual light is my fill. When it hits the next wall, it's coming on an acute angle. Now I got key from one light. All right? So let's stop looking at always using key and fill and start thinking about just what feels natural. Your fill sometimes will just automatically come. You go outside right now, there's one key light, the sun. Yet depending on which way you turn, you can find fill, you can find edge, you can find all these things with one source of light, okay? So when you don't have a lot of professional equipment, the way to light is to start from available light, right? If you have a key that is just a natural practical, then you start with that, you try to diffuse the crap out of it, and then you bounce from there. Understood? Y'all sound like y'all did this before. Okay. What about high key lighting? What does high key lighting say? Anybody? Does anybody know what high key lighting is? Yes. Okay. So what does high key lighting say, and when do you use it? You use high key lighting in commercials. You use high key lighting in comedies, right? Very flat. Why? Because you want to see everything. Everybody wants to see everything. So this is when you use high key lighting. But I've also found that high key lighting can be used in the opposite way to tell a story. For instance, there's a show, it was a movie called Inglourious Bastards, right? Y'all familiar with that? Okay, and Inglourious Bastards, when Lando has to interrogate Pierre, they have Lando on high key lighting, and Pierre is in low key lighting. He's the one that has the hard shadows. He's the one that looks mysterious, and you figure why? Wouldn't you think that because high key lighting, which is used in your commercials, it's used on, you know, your advertisement for food, like, you know, when we dress a hamburger on a set, you know, we make that hamburger look that way. It's not the hamburger you get, you know, in McDonald's drive-thru. Your hamburger on the set has got perfect spray, you know, water on it. The lettuce is all crisp, but we have to make sure that we hit every facet of that food. And what we do is we run at, you know, 60 frames per second, and we shoot it with as much light as possible to deal with something. Because the more you can see, the more comfortable you are, right? As soon as you get in the shadows of darkness, your mind automatically goes into what's next, right? There's a sense of suspense. There's a sense of, you know, what's going to happen. So in this particular case in Inglourious Bastards, they had Lando, who was the bad guy, in high key lighting, and Pierre was in low key lighting. The thing about that scene is that Lando, who was the bad guy, was true to his character, right? He was not going to compromise his job for Hitler. Pierre, on the other hand, who was supposed to be the good guy, what was he doing in that scene? He was snitching, right? He was ratting out the people that were hiding up under the table in the basement. So a way that you can take what's normally to be portrayed as the good guy and give it to the bad guy is because it also represents truth as opposed to compromise of the true character. Lando was true to his character, Pierre was not. So these are ways, another way you can tell stories with high key lighting or low key lighting or colors as well. Yeah? No? Okay, I'm not getting anything here. All right, y'all. So let's talk about backlighting, right? What's the purpose of backlighting? Separate, right? All right, so again, I feel like you guys know enough of this stuff. We should just talk about the film industry in general then. Is that better? Because every time I ask y'all a question, y'all seem to know about it already, unless y'all want to see some lighting plots for some particular applications. Let me see airplane. All right. So here we have an airplane, right? And these green lines represent the thrust, right, that lights are on. They're on motors. So when your plane is going up in the air, you lower those lights, right? Which shoots that shadow or shoots those lights in your windows on different angles. And then you have, you can have special effects doing airbags and making the plane do a little turbulence, things of that nature. All right, do y'all understand this lighting setup? Does anybody not understand this lighting setup? All right, go to the next one. No, okay, oh, there's people here, all right.
So what we have here is we have a bunch of lights on the truss that are far away, right? And then we have some more lights that are even closer, right? These two green truss, right? And again, what they are is, for the most part, they'd probably be sky panels, lights that can change multiple colors, but the soft lights. And as you see, as close as they are, they're just gonna give you one soft push, right? And again, they're on truss. So as the scene is going off, for them to, back to the airplane, please. As the scene is going off for the plane to be rising, you would be lowering those lights. All right, so just think about, anybody knows what a sky panel is? Yes. All right, so think about those all the first row being all sky panels. And think about the second row being moving lights. Right, which you could focus in any particular window at, you know, as you see, please. Okay. Oh, that's nice. Okay. So again, so these lights here would be your sky panels, right? A bunch of soft lights getting in each one of these windows without shadow. Sometimes we'll put diffusion on them. Sometimes we'll have Chimera bags, right? Chimera bags is another thing that you use for focus of soft light, because soft light wants to go all over the place and it contaminates your set. How do you stop that from happening? Use a crate, right? Y'all know what crates are, right? Okay, crates are very important. And then these lights, you could focus the light from the sun after you have the skylight, right? Because this is the skylight. Remember, I told you sky is nothing but a big diffuser. And the best situation to do an exterior is what? An overcast day, right? That's because you have a big piece of diffusion over the sun, so everything is nice and even. But then let's say you want to see the sun coming through those windows, you know, those hard rays, you start using these lights here, nice and far enough away, because if they were too close, the shadows wouldn't be right, right? So, y'all understand this now? Yeah. Okay, all right. You said no. Okay. Let's go to studio, let's go to bar, baseball field. All right, here's a baseball field setup, right? As you can see, they wanted to do, not so much 360, but they wanted to look all the way around and then out. So what I had here is, we have lifts. I have a 12K and an 18K and 125 foot lift going up and over these trees so I can hit all of this area. All right? Your photometrics are very important, right? Depending on the distance, it depends on how strong you need the light, right? If this was really far away, I use an 18K par. What else do we have here? And of course, power distribution all the way around the place, right? 18K on the lift as well, another lift over here, so I'm coming from both angles. So I can hit my subjects with these lights. Let's go to the fashion show. I'm gonna just keep bouncing all around the place until somebody says something. Huh? I can't hear you. Oh. All right, so fashion show. Can you expand on this a little bit? Perfect. So here you see, you have your curtain lights, right? You have your basic curtain lights. You have your runway key, your runway backlight, and then you just repeat the formula all the way up, right? In the middle, you have small fill lights, which will make sure that your subjects don't go into darkness. It's very important that you don't lose light. So some lights are just going to be focal and other lights are just going to be fill lights, right? Go up a little bit, please. A little more. All right, now your judges, right? So your judges, as you see, they have some backlights, right? And they have some forward lights. These are Licos, right? Source 4 Licos with Hampshire. Hampshire's a very good gel to use to have nice soft edges. Use a lot in fashion shows, and anytime you use a Lico, especially because a Lico can be a very harsh light. So you get you a nice wide angle, and
you diffuse it, you know.
I have a question.
Oh, Tom, what you got?
Okay, concerning the baseball pitch.
Go back to the baseball field. What's your question?
Okay, up there you have 12K and 18K. So I want to ask, how will you be able to determine the exact amount of lights that you place there and you'll be able to hit your subject at the pitch? How will you be able to do that measurement ahead of time?
Well, again, I kind of give you a formula of exaggeration, right? When I said the 65-watt bulb, right, that would be on the lamp. If I'm inside of a closed set, the way that I would replicate that is probably with a 650-watt light, right? So it's almost 10 times the amount. And based upon the distance of the source to the field, you know how much you need to use. So in a normal baseball field, like if you watch any football game at night, the whole place is lit up, correct? If I put this light right here, if you couldn't see any background, you would think it was daylight. So you kind of multiply the footage times your source. And there you go with your answer. All right, so a lot of times we would put maybe a par and a Fresnel, right? Fresnels, they're both focal lights. A par is going to be much harsher, and the Fresnel is going to be much softer. And then you use a combination of them both, which would replicate what stadium lighting looks like. You understand? Did that answer the question or not?
Yeah.
Okay. Who's next? Okay. Let's go back to the next set. The last one we were just playing. All right, so does anybody have any questions about the runway? No questions about runway. All right, so we all are experts at runways and baseball fields. Okay. Let me have Studio A and B. Matter of fact, no. Let's go to boxing ring. It's really not a boxing ring. What this is a rig for an exterior, it's inside of a studio, right? But it's for something that's supposed to be matched as an exterior hotel. Do we have hotel? Should be another one in there that says hotel. Some plans. There we go. Okay, so this was Ray Donovan's plans for the interior of, or the exterior of a parking lot to a motel. And this is the interior, right? As you saw, I had a bunch of Space Forces. If you're ever trying to fill a space to make it look like natural light, Space Forces are the lights to go with. In that particular case, we had a green screen, which was kind of containing the situation. All of this around here was a green screen, right? So I had S120s around here lighting the green screen, making sure that they kept the level of whatever level of light we were asking for in this area. And I used 16 of these Space Forces to saturate the space. And then here, just had S120s pushing into the window. I think I used the S30 here because that was the bathroom, smaller window, smaller light. So Space Forces are very important as far as trying to replicate daylight in a big studio. Everybody's familiar with Space Forces? Space lights? You're familiar with space lights?
No.
Okay, so yeah, space light, for those that don't know, is basically, go back to the boxing ring. It's basically a light like this. The old style was not LEDs. It was just like 6 bulbs. Well, they have small ones with 3 bulbs, and they also have 2 bulbs. But what they have hanging from them, which is not here, is a skirt, right? A round cylinder, which wherever your diffusion is becomes your light source, right? So if I want to multiply this light source, it would make sense to have something very big around it, because whatever the light fills, this light fills, as far as fabric is concerned, becomes my light source. And the broader the light source, the bigger the light source, the better and more lifelike and more original, the more realistic it's going to look, right? So again, outside, you got one source, but the whole sky is your source, right? It's your frame. It's your 4x4, your 8x8, your 20x20 frame of light source. And this is what changes things from looking amateur Night at the Apollo to professionally Hollywood. We understand this, right? This setup right here is another set. You also use this setup for boxing rings, much lower, right? Right above your talent. We've used this for boxing matches. Okay, again, when the green screen came in, it went around. You don't see it in place right now, but you do see the track that they started rolling, they started laying, right? That track, so the green screen went all the way around in a semicircle. And we were able to replicate a daytime, extreme daytime look. Okay, nighttime exterior scene. Let me see that. Another park. All right, I got an 80-foot lift over here with an 18K and a 4K. And I have, well, I think that was it. That was it, yeah. We just basically hit from one side because this was not a baseball field. This was not a stadium in a way where you would have to have the lighting all up. And we did a shot, the shot was over here, right? This is the shot over here. So I had an 80-foot lift with an 18K and a 4K here. And I believe I had another lift, or I had to move this lift from one side to this side, depending on what we were doing. So if you don't have two lifts, sometimes you gotta get all your shot done on one side and move to the other side. You've been there before, right? Mm-hmm. All right. Let's go to camera test, gels, and formula. Yes. Yes, please. What you got? Hello?
Yeah. So I'm asking, what do you do if you don't have such a lift to lift your light to that height? Because the impression you're trying to do is to create a natural soft light coming from the top with that amount of source. So what do you do without if you don't have a lift?
All right, so the distance between this and the set was about 300 to 400 feet, right? So only thing you do if you don't have an 80-foot lift is maybe you build a scaffold, right? Y'all know what scaffolding is, right? Put your lights on scaffold. If you can't get a 125-foot lift a block away, then you bring, you say you're gonna put a 20K and a 125 lift a block away, right? Bring your light back to set on axis. And as it comes closer, you can lower the wattage of that light, right? So instead of having a 20K or an 18K in this lift, I could then have put, it will limit your shot a bit, right? But I could then put a scaffold here and maybe put a 5K with a very big, like a 4x diffusion. Again, it's going to give me a nice soft push. The light's coming from the same place. It's just that because I don't have the space, I shrink the amount of light and I shrink the amount of space. And as far as height is concerned, roofs are very good if you don't have lifts, right? If you don't have lifts, use roofs. And if you don't have roofs, use scaffolding. Or you get, really, really big stands like Avenger stands or what we call Lawn John stands that go about 18 feet up in the air. All right, so that's how you alleviate that problem. Anybody else? Listen, guys, I'm gonna be honest with you. This is gonna work for me. If y'all got questions, I can answer them. All right, please. This is the way this works for me. If y'all have questions, I'm gonna answer them. Because people are gonna walk out of here and say, "Oh, he didn't say this, he didn't say that," but you didn't ask a question. Yeah, that's what I need. I need some interaction, yo.
All right, I want to respond. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, a lot of people sitting in this hall, I'm sorry to say, don't understand lighting. A lot of people are here to hear from the Almighty. So I actually expected that you will start from the basics, definitions, then the tools of lighting, then you go interior, exterior, blah, 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 so that we can have a perfect understanding before we get into this advanced lighting.
I thought this was a master class.
I know.
I mean, you're welcome to come and sit down at the class I'm going to teach for the next 2 weeks. But that's why. See, let me tell you something. I just came from another country, right? And in that country, they really don't have equipment at all, right? And they don't understand lighting on a different level. Nigeria is a mixed bag for me because I am a thespian. I started in theater. I did 12 years in theater, to 22 years in in the movie business. And one thing I did not want to do is talk under where your level is at. And I've asked this question about, you got DPs, you got gaffers in here, and I'm thinking that they need to know about storytelling with lights. Now, if you want me to describe what light is, light is something that's being radiated from electrons leaving protons and things of that nature. I mean, we can go there, but sir, not to make, I respect that, but I was here to give those who are this is supposed to be a master class. I thought I was giving them the sciences of wavelengths of light, right? In other words, for those that know, and I'll get back to them, why would you use an 18K HMI as opposed to a 20K with full CTB, right? Because we're talking about different light wavelengths, right? The way that an HMI lights something is more like the way natural daylight is. The light of a tungsten light with CTB on it still does not get rid of the full spectrum light of tungsten, right? Tungsten has the greatest CRI. See again. Does anybody know what CRI is? All right. Do you know what CRI is, sir? CRI is color rendering index, right? So I've also found that in lighting, one of the problems I've seen with not the masterclass people, but the people who are still trying to figure out light, I've found that they like to use cold lights inside daytime or nighttime interiors, which doesn't make any sense, right? But I also understand that people equate warm light with poverty or small cramped quarters. They put cool light with, let's say, Buckingham Palace, where you have these great big windows of all this daylight coming in. Even in the background, if you see a chandelier that has 3,200 degrees, you still have, your room is balanced with daylight, right? So you have two different kind of lights that you are using to do this with. Two different type of light frequencies, patterns. I like to call HMI light or daylight thin light, right? It's a more thin light as opposed to 3200 tungsten lights is a thicker light, right? Because when daylight hits things, it kind of pastelizes color, right? Which is low CRI. Tungsten light hits something, it makes things pop. That's what CRI is. When the light touches a red, is that red, do you really feel that red pop out at you? Do you feel that green pop out at you? That's what tungsten lights do. It has the greatest spectrum of light. Do you understand this part, sir? Please keep the mic with him. I need to talk to him. I seem like I don't need to talk to y'all. I need to talk to him because I want to make sure I'm hitting the mark here. Does anybody feel like I'm behind or ahead or that you don't understand what I'm saying? Because
okay, let me explain something.
Yes, sir.
I'm enjoying your lectures.
Thank you.
All right? So, because you are asking for questions from the hall. Some people here are actors, some are directors, some are producers. A producer, most producers don't have business with lighting, but the reason they came is to have some knowledge.
Okay.
So far you are doing good. I just said...
So, sir, actually, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I thought I kind of talked about the producer's understanding of the DP's job. Like I get that in this room is a mixed bag of people, right? So I thought I talked about what the producer needs to look out for as far as the money that he's spending. If a guy comes in and says he wants a light here and then he wants it over there, that guy did not take care of his technical analysis, right? He did not do his homework on his subject.
Absolutely.
Right? And so therefore now he's wasting time talking about it's his creative aspect. If I got to paint a wall that's really big, I'm not going to get a paintbrush that's this small. I'm going to get a roller. Now when I get to the edges, I'll get a fine sponge brush. But either way, so I don't know if I'm speaking, my accent is off or something, but I think I've answered every question that you're talking about. I think we're talking about.
It's okay. Fine.
Now as far as the actors, Well, you know, I'm glad. Let's just go into that. So for any actors or actresses in here, gels on lights are very important, right? When we did 30 Rock, we used something called cosmetic peach and cosmetic highlight because Tina Fey had a scar on her face, right? That color and that diffusion made that scar go away, all right? So for actors, actresses, as far as light is concerned, you know, I thought I showed you some of the pictures that show what make you look like what, right? From the different angles or the different, the diffusions used. The only thing I didn't show you so far is like how color looks on the face, okay? Yeah, so, is it, you got another question? I just want to make sure that I answer all your questions.
No, I'm fine.
No, don't be shy. Let's go. Seriously, no, I'm dead serious, let's go. Anybody else? Anybody else?
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, my voice is loud. Yeah, don't worry.
Hello.
They need you on mic for recording purposes.
Hello. So I want you to expatiate on why you make certain choices. Why tungsten? I know you started talking about that. Why tungsten? Why HMI? Why would you use LEDs? And for what purposes? Like these different kinds of fixtures, why do you choose them?
Okay, again, so that's great. If I'm shooting a daytime interior, right, to replicate the light that you see, and this may be something that, I don't know, I think I said this too, but your audience is the expert. Their eyes is what have seen these situations numerous of times. So things that look normal to them, they're gonna say that's fine. If something is off, it's your audience that's gonna say it's off. As it goes to what kind of lights you use, tungsten light, that vibration of molten tungsten, that's light, sir, it creates the spectrum of light in which it lends to is the fullest spectrum of light, right? Daylight, the HMI light, does not make things pop. For instance, let me give you an example. If you're in a museum, right? You go to a museum, they got big skylights, they got, you know, all these nice lights all over the place. And the daylight makes you feel upbeat, right? It reminds you of the day, right? It reminds you of the start of a new day. It's like when your curtains open up, right? You know it's daytime, it's time to get up, it's time to start doing things. This is a part of nature. But none of those pictures, none of those, somebody got something to say? You can come up here. Anybody got something to say? You can come up here. Sir? Sir? Okay. So, but none of those pictures or none of the artwork in the museum will be lit by daylight. Every last one of those things that you are looking at will be lit by tungsten colored light. Why? Because of the what? CRI. Because of its color rendering index, for its ability to make colors pop. If you want something to look as close to real life sunlight, daylight, you're going to use an HMI. If you want something to look like it's just lit from artificial lighting, you're going to use tungsten. And LED is sort of in the middle. It's almost like it's convenient. It's very convenient because you have the ability to change LEDs on the fly. You don't have to waste the time of then going and saying, hey, let's put this gel on this light, let's put that gel on this light. You can just press a button and it can go from 5600 to 4100. It can go to deep red, it can go to deep blue. You can saturate it how you want. So that's the thing about LEDs is truly just, for me, it's convenience. Anybody else? Did I answer your question though? You sure? Is there any application that you have in question that you might run into and you're thinking about which light you should use? Or was there an application that you had that you felt that you wasn't sure what lights to use? Yes?
So, I DP'd a short film recently. And,
speak a little louder so I can't hear you.
Okay, I DP'd a short film. I was DOP on a short film recently. And it was supposed to be an evening scene. And so all we had were LEDs. And the reasons why we had LEDs was cost.
Interior.
Budget.
Interior.
Yes, interior.
Okay.
Yes.
And what was your problem?
We were supposed to shoot some from outside to create some ambience. Yes, and then put some A's inside and all that. But other guys on set with me were saying, okay, we should get HMIs, we should get this, we should get that, and put gels on them and all that. So I just wanted to be sure, because I made my stand, okay, this is all we have, we cannot afford more. But when you have that choice, like, okay, budget is not a problem, money is not a problem, do you decide that, okay, I'm going to use HMI for this, I'm going to use LEDs for part of the illumination inside and all that?
Yes. So I had a recent situation where I had a restaurant, which is a daytime interior, right? So let's think about the restaurant as being on a corner, because that's how the windows were. It was like one side and then the other side, right? So on one side, I had 18Ks coming through, right? On big stands at about 11 feet high, sources about 13 feet high coming in, right? On the other side, since I was not gonna ever see that side, I used RE360s, which basically is like a big screen TV. They push out a bunch of light, but it's soft and it doesn't go too far. So there is a combination where you use both. And then on the inside, right above the window sills, right? This is very important when you're doing a daytime interior. You can use LEDs there, right? Because if your light is on an angle coming through the window this way, and you decide to have your action here, that light's not getting to them, right? So then you put something right above the window or right above the door on that same angle, which pushes in deeper into your location. All right? The lower you lower the light, the more it can dig, but then you're then going to start casting shadows, and it's also very unreal for sunlight to be doing that kind of situation. Does that answer your question? Anybody else? Come on, man, this is when we go get to the real juicy stuff. Let me hear something.
I have like a follow-up question for the scenario he just painted.
Okay.
So I wanted to like get the basic layout on what's your stand in approaching mixed lighting. So for example, back up to the scene where you talked about tungsten in the museum. So let's say we have like some shafts of daylight streaking in from the top, and you have like the entire mood is basically tungsten. So do you get to probably run up with a setup whereby you have like the 18Ks coming in from inside and the camera is like balanced to the 18Ks, or you move with like a maxi brute so you get like a thicker negative and you have like a higher CRI based on your accession of the tungsten giving us like more richer tones? How would you navigate such scenarios?
Again, you start with your key light, right? So if the key light is from the sun, from the skylight, or say it's from windows, then you maintain that directional motivation, right? And then you can use things like book lights, right? You guys know what book lights are? Yeah. Right? You can use something like a book light to kind of, and then lower it, like really lower it. Because you just want a little bit of it, maybe to fill. But the lights that are going in that museum situation, you're not going to use an extremely big light, right, as your tungsten source, because those lights are only for the artwork. So that's when it gets artistic and looks nice, when you have it either edging the person, depending if they turned around from the picture or artwork. So it's all about where the motivation is at, and then striking a balance between, let's say, 5600 and 27, right? Maybe you do, hello? Maybe you do 5600 from where the windows are coming from, right? And then you have maybe a 41 around the back as your edge, and then 32 as the fill from the actual artwork. But I would not spend a bunch of time with big lights, because you already have big tungsten lights in that situation, because you already have, your set is balanced by the 5600 coming into the windows.
Okay, so do you get to curate most of the Kelvin? Because sometimes your Kelvin can also be altered by, let's say, using like a unbleached muslin, and you're like pushing a tungsten in, and that could actually lower your target temperature in reference to what your base cameras are looking at.
You can always use gels to correct that right away. All right, so if you're running through muslin, whether it's bleached or unbleached, and something is not giving you the exact color that you're asking for, that's gel time. Right? That's time for gel. Color correcting gel. Do you understand? No. You sure? I want the scenario that you're really worried about. Is there a particular amount of space that you're talking about?
Okay, so my entire question was based on if you look at if Beale Streets could talk, right? Okay. The DB from the scene, there was this when he was having like his private time, right? There was him hinting on the fact that what you also pointed out, tungsten giving richer saturations you get. And sometimes you get to see some setups that like set up where you have like close to about 64K maxi brutes and they're all gel daylight, rather than actually going like probably using a couple of 18Ks to be able to up-pass, to be able to also hit that same lux luminosity that the scene may require. So the question I'm now like, it's more like a very technical one, because it's almost like paying attention to subtractive color saturation, where you see richer tones that you could see probably in film, as against what you would expect when you use like normal HMI. Almost asking, how do you get those thicker negatives that actually gives you those richer tones with actually cranking your saturation up? It's just very sublime, it's very minutiae. It's not something.
I would say 4100.
Great.
Because it's right in the middle, right? You got daylight 56, tungsten 32. The deeper, the lower you get with your Kelvin, of course, the muddier the light, but also the greater the CRI. So I would say that 4100 is a great way to kind of cheat daylight and get that pop out of those colors. Does that make sense? All right, anybody else? Yes. Down here.
Yeah. Cotton materials, nice.
Yeah, keep passing till it gets to the last person.
What was that?
Yeah, so car interiors, night.
Cotton?
Car.
Cars, okay.
Yeah, cars interior. Yeah, nice.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. So what?
I love it. Go ahead. This is a good one. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I have issues with that. I'm present on the set, and I have issues lighting that, movement shot without a low bed. So what the best way to get that?
Poor man's process. That's what you're talking about. You're talking about doing a car scene and you don't have the trailer to put the car on.
Yeah.
Easy. This is an easy one. All right, so inside, what you want to do is you want to have a green screen. Are you guys familiar with pixel tubes? Asteras. You guys work with Asteras? Okay, so what we do in a car scene is we'll take a piece of speed rail, which is a pipe, maybe about, I want to say, right about here, about 8 feet in the air, right? And we run about 6 of them. Sometimes, 8 on one side or 8 on the other side. And then you just do chases. You do chases, right? You might also, now the old poor man's process before all these LEDs, which is probably going to be what a lot of people are going to deal with, is just having tungstens. We used to create what you call a helicopter, right? A helicopter would be a big stand where I had a cross, right? Kind of on a flange, right? And I'd put 4 different lights on the edge. These, this thing would probably be about, I want to say 12 feet long pipe, right? And then I sit the stand. Let's say this is the window here. Say it's the car door right here, right? I'll sit the stand about here. And I'd make sure that the lights cross over the front windshield, right? And you just spin those lights. You have them colored whatever color your street lights are. Like the orange lights are called sodium vapor, right? You know that, right? The ones that are more green or more purple are the mercury vapors, right? So in that case, I might take a gel that's urban vapor or something like that. I put them on 2 and then put another gel on the other, and I'd spin it. And it gives the effect of you passing lights, street lights, all right? Also, you could take 2 lights on a 750 triple head, right? Which is just 1, 2, 3 pots to put a light. You put the 2 lights on the edge. You have that on a rolling stand, and in the back, you just move them around, right? Like this, and then you turn them off. If he's turning the corner, then you turn those lights off that way. It gives the effect of him turning the corner, right? So if you don't have the pixel tools, but you can just run all types of patterns going back and forth through the car as it's driving, then that's what you do. I just recently did one with the last class, and we used 2 helicopters. I didn't have any equipment, so I used a C-stand, right? And instead of having 4 lights, I just used 1. But what I had to do was to make sure that as the person in front spun their light, I gave it a half a beat and then spin the light behind. So it gives you the effect of actually going past a light that you are traveling under. Yeah, 4-man process.
Yeah,
very good.
So that's the process of using the green screen, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
So what if the case where the car is actually moving?
Easy.
Yeah.
You just get you a nice 2x4, you get you an Apple box or anything, and you just, a little bit.
No, I mean the car is actually in motion. Like the actor is actually driving the car on the road.
Yeah. Well, if you're asking from a light aspect, that's what I just told you about. But, I mean, and special effects would move the car, but if you want to have the car moving, the green screen has to be a picture of. So you get in your car with a camera, right? And you drive around with the camera, and you take shots. You take what they call plate shots, so you take just roving static shots, not static, but roving shots of where you're passing. And then you insert that into the green screen.
Okay, so let's go poor man process, let's go poorer. In the case where
all right, I'm with it, let's go.
So in the case when the producer says, oh, okay, no green screen,
okay,
they actually want the actor to drive the car.
Okay.
On the road.
Okay.
Yeah, so no rigging, no stacking shot, the car is actually on the road. So, yeah, how do you do that?
So you're saying you actually have a person in a car,
yes,
driving down the road,
yes.
Camera is where? Is it in the passenger seat?
Yeah, camera on front.
Or is the camera mounted outside in the hood?
Yeah.
Okay, and you're doing this down roads that have no lights?
Yes.
But the thing is though, you have to have lights, right? Because how do you match the exterior to what's going on in the car? Right? You know what I'm saying to you? No street lights, right?
Picture a farm road.
Okay, that's simple too. That's simple too. Right? If that's the case, if y'all that poor, y'all don't really care about the situation, right? So let's get us a nice bounce, right? Right? Because let's just say the only light that you have is moonlight, right? So you only have moonlight. So let's put something on the car, on top of the car, on the roof of the car, right? Which shoots into bounce boards that comes back into the window. That's going to give you a solid moonlight effect, right? The other thing is, you would use something. You ain't got no money, but you use one of these.
Yeah, MCs. Yeah.
This is called a Roscoe. This is called a Roscoe dash light. Okay, so this light here is what we use to mimic things in a car. Like so, a lot of cars have this kind of temperature, right, on their dials. You lower this, and you get a nice glow, right? Now, it's spreading all over the place, right?
Yeah.
It's going to be all over the place, right? So what do we use to shape spill? Exactly. And then you take a crate, and guess what? Here's the thing about crates, guys. You can make them. You know, you can make crates. You can make crates. So now my light is directional. Okay. So you see the difference between a crate and not a crate. And if you don't have this light, then you go get you a light bulb, right? You get you a light bulb and you put a gel around it and you crate that, okay? Another light that's great is a China ball. You guys know what China balls are? China ball is, man, I've seen some great movies done with China balls alone, right? You take a China ball, you can paint 270 degrees of that China ball and get that same focus light, all right? You buy a China ball, it's great for eye lights, walk and talks, correct? Right over camera. Paint the back of it so it doesn't spill light into the camera lens, all right? And gives you the soft light on top of your subject. Another thing about nighttime work, right? One of the things that they're doing nowadays for nighttime work, bro, you don't want to spend a bunch of money. You don't want to, if I was trying to light up, you know, a stadium, you know, that wasn't really lit as a stadium, but let's say somebody's in the stadium at night, right? And I want to light it. but that's still going to take a lot of machinery. I can put an ND filter on the camera.
Oh wow!
Right? Nope. Do we have? There's a shot called the last shot. I don't know if you have it. It's the exterior. The last exterior shot. I think. Let me see what the name of it is here. Well, this is the one I like though. Night shot at day. Night shot at day. There you go. This was shot in the daytime, guys. All right. So think about just how do you get, and what's going on here? You have the entire thing is lit. Now, that also means that those lights are artificial, correct? Yeah. Because there's no way, if this was the daytime, which it was, that you would see those lights. So those are added in post. All right. As far as that car rig is concerned, mount you a bounce on that roof, right? That comes out just to throw that light right back into the dash, the rear dash, the front dash, the side dash, however you want to do. And then use the dash light, the motivated light that would be in the car. Not that stuff I talked about, stuff moving, because you don't have no lights outside, so you can't match that, right? Because your coverage, your production value would be with him in the car, watching the car pass by, watching the car leave. These are what make things real, right? Otherwise, we wouldn't do coverage, right? We would just do 50-50 and that would be it. But no, you do over the shoulder, you do your front, you do his back, and you do all these different angles. One of the greatest shots that I love is like a Jason Bourne situation where you hear the audio from a person inside of an office, but yet the camera's on such a long angle that you're looking at the whole building. And then they get closer and closer, and then you get inside the building. This is production of value. So, you got anything poorer? We're gonna go there too. I'm with you. What else you got?
Okay, say you don't have a green screen. The car is static. The car is static. It's not moving.
It's static. Okay.
So you have like a 2x4 doing the wedge to actually simulate the movement. You have your light crew doing the pattern, right? But now the challenge for the shot is actually the camera's in the front windshield, looking out the back of the window. So you have to sell the illusion of you have like a car tailing in that car that's driving.
Right.
But it's all static for the process trailer.
Right.
How do we go about that?
That was what I was talking about, the two 650s, or it could be two PARs, you know, like two, not PAR 64s, but something small, right? Something that mimics the size of headlights. You put them on a triple riser, so they're like this far apart, and you just kind of, you know, a guy will have a job. You'll say, okay, you be like here, you move a little bit like this, and then depending if you turn or if I'm turning, you just turn them off. Cut them off. You cut those lights off after you get them out of the shot, come back, start again. Sometimes you can start with two sets of that, so that that one light and stand that's on the rollers rolls out the way, and behind it is another set. Does that help? What else are you trying to look at? So you said you wanted to establish what's in the back, right? Another thing to do is to use red gel, because even though the red light in the back is not focused at you, a little red spill back into the window sells rear lights. It sells it, you know. Your tail lights are not focused inside your car, right? And you're going with traffic, which means the lights behind you are white, but a little glow of red, let's say a light on a red gel, maybe a redhead, which is, you know, super soft. You turn it off and on, you know, you turn it up and down, which gives the illusion that you're using the lights. Like for instance, if you was in that car and the scene says that you hold on the brakes, right? You splash a little bit of red in that window, and it feels like, you know, that's your tail light. Can you see that? Okay. Who else?
Hello. So basically, I want to still go back to that scenario that the car scene, but mine was a day scene. You know, a car on a motion actually. So because it's very important for us to see it from the perspective of the Nigerian factor or a very low or poorer factor. I'm
sorry. I said a little. I didn't really get that.
No, I mean, I say it's important for us to look at it from the perspective
First of all, where are you?
I'm here.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, from the perspective of a poorer factor, you know, how do you light it? A car on motion and with the actor inside. So for me, I've I've been in that kind of situation, and like you said, you talked about it, but in a casual way, is the pixel light or the stick light. So what I did basically was I used Gaffer tape to tape those pixel light or the stick light on the dashboard of the car. You understand? Because the car is on motion, and you just want to take a shot, you know, while the car is on motion, without no green screen, no post-production effect, you know, just straight up.
So let me ask you a question. So this car scene, you said it's a daytime car scene, right?
A daytime car scene.
Your camera, so you actually have live scenery outside your car?
Exactly. So the camera is rigged inside the dashboard of the car while the car is on motion. Okay. And basically, the one we did, the DP wasn't even inside the car. So basically, the actors are given role on what to say while they drive the car. You understand? So they come, review it, and that's what they want, and that's okay. So basically, the lights are rigged inside the car with Gaffer tapes. You understand? So on the dashboard of the car, and that solved the problem. So I mean, that is the perspective of that kind of poorer situation.
Okay.
Yeah, of the Nigerian factor.
So this camera's in the dashboard. What?
Yes.
How much outside is it seeing?
Not too much, just from the window shot, you know. So basically, it's a day scene. So the outside is already lit by the sun. So it's just some light inside the car to lift the faces, you know. So and the interior of the car.
So how did you program that pixel tool?
So like I said, it was basically saved by Gaffer tape. So this is how I rigged it with Gaffer tape on the dashboard. You know the mirror of the car?
Yes.
So I put a stick light there and use Gaffer tape it and position it in such a way that.
So what's the problem?
No, I was saying, so this is the perspective of how a situation like that could be solved.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah.
But I would say the programming of it, right? If you want to show that it's moving, you can't keep that light solid. That light, hello? Yo, my man, hello? Somebody's asking a question, bro. You can read next. So the thing about that situation is that's good positioning for those tubes, but what I would do to sell the car moving is I would just have them like kind of glow off and on from one side to the next, because that's how light looks when you're driving. It doesn't really look constant. Everything that you go past is going to bounce light back to you, right? So if you pass a building, your lighting level is going to go down a little bit, but subtly, right? And very softly. So I think that the lighting position that you have is great. I would just make sure that you have the programs for those lights to be able to lower them and raise them up just to sell the motion.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anybody else? My man over here.
I have a question, please.
Ooh, where you at?
Yeah, I'm here. So my question has to do with nighttime interior. Let's take this picture, for example. Let's say we're inside the house.
Right.
Let's say we're inside the house. If you look at the windows, you would see that it's warm lighting. You could argue that maybe it's a street light, or if it's blue, for example, if you look at the windows, you could argue that it's moonlight. But these days in films, I see a lot of people use cyan, and I'm conflicted on if it's actually the right tone of color to use for nighttime.
I like this question right here. The original recipe that we used to use for moonlight, right? Big shows, little shows, would be half CTB, quarter plus green, right? That combination gives you moonlight. But what you find nowadays is that people are getting more bold as far as using colors to exaggerate emotions. So cyan is kind of a go-to exaggeration of that half blue and that quarter plus green. So as far as the colors that you use, you can decide whether you want to use a VS yellow for a sunrise, you know what I mean, as opposed to using an HMI light with full CTO. Huh? Did that answer your question?
Yes.
Sure?
Sure.
Okay. Now seriously, guys, because I don't want to say anything that somebody's not getting exactly what they're asking for.
So, I understand that this is a master class. And
I'm all right. I don't care what it is. Just ask a question. He's a teacher that is not, you know, it's with everything.
I'm a camera operator and I'm trying to learn lighting.
Okay.
But I understand the part that you made mention of being jack of all trades. But in Nigeria, we are versatile and we try to learn things even when the other person might not be available in terms of...
I'm sorry. Speak a little loud. I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry. Okay. What I'm trying to say in essence is, for a low-budget filmmaker like me, like who is just starting out, what do you advise, or how do you advise me maximizing a 2 LED light to light my...
Let me ask you a question. These 2 LED lights you have, keep that microphone for a second. The 2 LED lights that you have, do they have any type of crating or any type of bags?
Sorry, I didn't get that.
So crate.
You know what a crate is?
See, I just took the crate off that light? See how that light went crazy?
Yeah.
All right, this is a crate.
Yes, they do.
Do you have crates on your lights?
Yes.
How deep are your crates? Like, okay, so what's the depth of your light, right? If it's LED light, then right now they use about 2 inches, right? Your light's about 2 inch deep, right? Maybe about a foot wide, right? Yeah. Something like that?
Just a bit smaller.
Yeah, right. You can make crates. All right, this is what I did with my last class. I don't know if y'all know what chloroplast is, but chloroplast is like, it's plastic in the same form of cardboard. So there are 2 sheets, and in between is a corrugation, right? I use chloroplast to make what they call snoots, right? You make a snoot, and then on top of the snoot, you put a crate at the end of it. So now you have that super soft light, and if you want to control it, you put your snoot on. And this is what keeps it from going all over the place. You focus it right. It's like the poor man's book light. Just put a snoot. Make a snoot with a, you know, like, basically, you make a square, right? You just cut a slit in it, because they come with barn doors, those lights, right?
Yes.
Exactly. So you cut a slit in it, right where the barn doors is at, and then you slip your little clothespin or whatever it is you need to attach that to your light, and then you have controlled light. So for a person who only has these 2 lights and is trying to make the best of, first thing you want to use is the available light that's around. All right? After you use the available light, since you don't have high power lights, you use your lights to just accent. All right? Again, don't fight. Don't fight. Just take what you're given and then add to it. But one way that, I had a guy ask me about why he was having spill in his newsroom, right? He had a newsroom, and he kept saying that he was getting green on the face of the newscaster. And I said, well, do you have a green screen in there? He says, no, the back of his, the background is green. Not a digi green, but a chroma green. For those that know what digi and chroma is, digi and chroma is the colors that they use. When things were digital, when things were not digital, they just was like, the green was like a Zambian green, right? Now it's more like a fluorescent green. That's digi green as opposed to chroma green. So I asked him, did he have a green? He said, yeah, you know, it's a lot of green in the back. I said, okay, so what kind of lights are you using? Guess what? This is a newsroom. Same lights you have. I said, this is your problem. Because if you go into a news studio, you're going to find, if I'm standing right here, if I'm sitting right here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 lights, 8 lights, right? Focused on me. Super soft lights, but they will all have crates. Right? They'll all have a snoot of some sort. So that beautiful soft light, that super thick wave light, call it a thick wave light, right? HMI thin wave, tungsten thick wave, right? It's going to also color render and index, make things pop. As it comes, it wants to go all over the place. So if you snoot it, if you crate it, snoot it and crate it, it comes right to me, just perfect. It doesn't go anyplace else. So I said, but how far is this green from your actor? I mean, from your commentators. And he said, the wall's right behind him. I said, there's your answer. All right? You can't expect to shine a light from, let's act like that face, this is not here. But, so let's say this is the ceiling, this is where the person is, right? And this is where the lights are, right? On a 45-degree angle down to him, right? Now your wall is right behind the guy. You can't expect not to get color on his face. I was first just thinking behind his back, right? Wrapped around, right? As a normal spill of a green screen would be.
But you can't expect not to get light to wrap right back around his face if you're shooting lights from here, that the light goes everywhere. If that light's going everywhere, when it's going to do the same thing that the sun does to everything else, right? So you're going to get, for lack of a better term, sunlight on his face, which is now green. The answer to that was just to take this wall and move it back. If you have that room, you move it back. If you have to light this wall, then you put a light down here, which gets this angle, right? And it shoots up that way, not on him, right? And then if you want to shoot it the other way, you light it from there. And it shoots down on this. Again, what's going to be really important in this situation is that you paint this matte black.
Okay.
So once light touches it, it gets absorbed. Same thing with the ceiling. If the light's down here, shooting the wall here, and going that way, you want this to be matte black. You don't want any more reflective surface. So again, with your lighting setup, the way to maximize the ability is to be able to shape. Grip equipment is very important. Flags and things of that nature. I think we as lighters forget about how important the shaping of the light is. Shaping of the light is very, very important. Right? It creates separation, and it allows you to specify exactly, get right to it, get to the point, for lack of a better term. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
You sure?
Yep.
All right. I only want questions. I ain't stopping. Who got something else? Where are you?
Right here.
Go for it.
I would like to know the type of low budget setup for an underwater scene.
Underwater scenes.
Yes.
Underwater scenes?
Yes, underwater.
There's no low budget underwater. I mean, look, at the end of the day, you can take your iPhone, put it in a bag, and go up under there and take some pictures. You can do that, right? But for, let's say, a pool scene, right? Let's say a pool scene. You need light, right? Period. If you're in a pool, you need light, for real, right? But most of a pool scene is the pool itself, correct? So if you can't put lights in the pool that can shine down on the pool and reflect that water effect, you take yourself a little bin, right? You take a bin, you know the kind of bins that you put your clothes in that go under your bed?
Yeah.
You take that, you fill it up with some water, you break some mirrors, you put them inside there, you tap that water, and it'll give you the effect all over the place. All right, a couple more questions before I get kicked out. Let's go, who else? Gentleman right here, white hat. Oh, there's one last guy.
Yeah, sorry, I want you to help speak to a little of the lighting for verisimilitude, for believability, because there was an example someone gave about lighting from a car, and then when you gave your own example, you added some reality to it, that your lights certainly would come from, both angles if you're driving. So maybe you can speak a little more to that. It's not just about lighting, but light something that your audience, are going to believe. So I want you to speak more to that.
You were talking about when I said about the speed rails and the pixel tubes on both sides.
Yeah.
So you're talking about the positioning of them.
No, not just.
Give him back the mic, please. 1 second. Yeah, I want to be specific, guys. I want to answer this question.
I'm speaking to most of the error, the realistic errors that some people, while they are lighting, that like some people will just, once they put up the lighting and the subject and all these things are all well lit, and the director is looking at the picture and they're saying, this is good. You give some angle to. It's not just about you lighting it, but there are some elements to your lighting that will make the audience while watching to also believe it. So I want you to speak to those things.
Keep that mic. So are you saying that I said that there was pixel tubes and they just kind of there, so you're looking at the shot, but then we haven't did action, so there's no real like selling it to being real?
Okay, let me try to rephrase what I got from the examples. I think he was the one that gave the example. He said, okay, a low budget film where what he did was he created sort of a lighting that was focused on the subject from the mirror side, and then you said if you were the one that is going to put up that same lighting composition, that you would do it in such a way that while the car is in motion, there would be reflection coming from both sides to create the reality. So I'm speaking to, while lighting, let us also, like, if there are some examples you can give so that we can be conscious about what you're lighting, let it be believed by the audience watching. That's just what I'm trying to.
Okay, so as I was saying, with his lighting setup, I thought was great. You know, I thought as far as the poor man's process is concerned, to have those 2 pixel tubes, one in the dashboard, one right above the dashboard, and one in the mirror, right, the rear view mirror. Yeah. I didn't think there was anything wrong with it. I'm not here to teach y'all anything that when y'all doing it right. If it's right, I think it's right. What I told him to do in selling it is that he makes sure that the pixel tubes, which have the ability to have light from left to right or right to left, that they just kind of bounce in and out real softly, which will give the depiction of when you're driving past things. Everything you pass by is going to change that light just a little bit. You know, I did a 3-point lighting situation with a sun only because there was a truck parked right here, right? The truck, so sun behind me, truck over there, right? So my subject, it's got an edge now, and it's got a key from the truck bounce, right? So everything that you pass with your car is going to do a little something different with the light. So that's why I said to have the program of those lights so that you could use them to come in and out. If it's like you going left to right. So he could have also took another tube and put it on the side of the door, right? That's a great one, right inside the door, right there. If that camera is in the dashboard, then you probably have that front window that can't be seen. So take a 2-footer and do the same thing that gives the sense of motion that way. Or put it up top so that you have it from where the sun, you know, the angle of light is you hit the car, right? Because the skies are better bounced than the floor. Does that answer your question, sir?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Please, let's put the round of applause for